It's your boy. We out here doing it bigly, like
Big
Donald
real
Trump.
Bill.
My bad.
Alright, I'm gonna start this video off. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. Stan Lee just passed away. And since I've known Tony, he's been such a huge Marvel fan. And I am too. I mean, I feel like the entire universe is. But no one, like, loves comics, I feel like, as much as Tony, like, that I know. He brought up a good point that comics have only been around for how long?
They came out like in the 30s, I think.
Yeah. So, like, that's not a long time, you know? And then we were talking about before then, what was it then? It was people were obsessed with, like, Greek gods and stuff, like Zeus and all that. So I wanted to ask Tony, one, like, what type of impact has Stan Lee had on you? And two, why do you think superheroes, superhero culture, and just, like, that whole Marvel universe has made such a big impact in our culture? So let's start with that.
If you look at a lot of like historical documentaries and stuff about Superman or Captain America, the X-Men, or even like Wonder Woman too, like they always had some sort of connection to the times. They were symbols the same way like a lot of Greek mythology gods were symbols, and they're meant to like stand for something, the idyllic figure, like something that you should aspire to. So like Superman kind of represented good and justice,
Okay.
and was like this perfect person, which he was an alien, but like he came down to earth to like save us all, which is kind of similar to like Jesus in a lot of ways. But it was sort of that same thing where I think humanity, we know that we're kind of like crap, like we're kind of garbage, just in a sense of like we're selfish and like ego driven and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so you need to tell these stories of these characters who just stand for righteousness. And so I think Superman was kind of that, and like he gave people hope in a time where there was like war and like the Great Depression and people were coming out of that. And I think Batman has always been like the darker side of it, because at the same time, when you look at a character that's like this perfect person like Superman, you kind of need like that opposite, and to make somebody that is more relatable. They both like lost their families and stuff, lost their parents, but Batman doesn't have superpowers. He's just like a guy, and like his superpower is that he's smarter than everybody and like he's rich. Mm-hmm. But like with him, he really took off because it was like people could relate to him. Like I could be Batman. Like all I gotta do is be rich.
So it's like it's attainable. Batman made it like attainable.
Sort of, yeah. Almost? He's more like human than Superman, like literally, because he was a human. And as far as like
I didn't know Superman was an alien.
Yeah, he's from Krypton. So his planet got destroyed, and so that was his parents at the last minute, like shoot him out of the planet as it's blowing up. And he lands on Earth, and he gets found by his parents, and they live on that farm in Kansas or whatever, Smallville.
Oh yeah, I love Smallville.
So that's where he landed at.
Okay.
As far as what it means to like the mainstream culture now, I think since they started making these movies, it was one of those things where comic books were something where you had to like be into reading, you had to be into like keeping up with all of this stuff. There was different series, different storylines, there's different universes, there's different timelines happening at once. And every time they would bring out a new illustrator or a new like storyteller for it, it was like a completely different world than the last book you might have read. So like if you weren't keeping up with all that stuff, like you could easily get lost. And so it could drive you away from like comic books themselves. But the movies being made the way they are, especially Marvel and the way they're all connected, kind of made it more digestible, I think. Mm-hmm. And you're being able to visualize it in a different way because it's live action happening and you're like in it. I think that's why it's so popular now. And then you're seeing like these people, because if you're reading a character, the way I'll hear a character's voice on paper is going to be totally different from how you hear it. So now when we think of Iron Man, like you're seeing Robert Downey Jr. Like he's a person now. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so now it's way easier for everybody to get into it because like we all like Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man.
Because that's Iron Man.
You know what I'm saying? We all can get together and say like this guy's Iron Man.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think a lot of the ideals that a lot of these different characters stand for, anybody like people can relate to them. Like,
yeah.
And they make me feel like I'm not crazy sometimes. Or you see these people go through stuff in these stories and they're going through it on like a way more huge level than I would, but like there's still people that you can relate to. Like they kind of represent different aspects. Like Wolverine has a temper, so it's like anybody with a temper can relate to like, man, I can totally relate to like wanting to tear some claws out and just rip shit up. You know what I'm saying? And he's still a good guy. He's still like trying to do good, but like he just doesn't play no games. You know what I'm saying?
You know, for me, from an outsider, I respect what Stan Lee has done. I like it'll be sad for me to not see his cameos. Like I always looked forward to like how he was going to pop himself in. You know, like the legacy that he left was just so amazing to me. Like he built these worlds and these characters, and they'll be there forever, way past his lifetime, for generations to come. People will always enjoy it. To me, like that's why like entertainment and art is so important, because like it's able to leave that legacy and reach so many people and like have messages embedded into these characters to get a point across, or to, you know, to help unify people.
And it's like you're creating a thing where it has to exist within this certain structure, because like there's so many different renditions of all these people: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. And over the years, so many different like illustrators have done different interpretations of these people. But like at the end of the day, the story of Batman sees his parents get killed and like makes that his life work, like that part never changes. It's always that. Like the Joker is always the Joker. Like no matter what scenario you put it in, like they built these characters to where like they stand for something, they represent something. All these different people over all these different years can keep reinterpreting it and building off of it. Yeah. And like you said, like it outlasts the person who made it. And I think as a person who's a creative or an artist, that's the ultimate.
The ultimate. I mean, that's like I know that that's what both of us like work towards. Like we want that.
Yeah. Like I think to make something that's a staple in the world. Yeah. Forever. Like that will outlive you forever. Like that's so crazy. And I think it is wild to think that Stan Lee has been there from the beginning. Like he saw these characters from day one being drawn on paper to being played by real people in these epic ass movies with like these crazy graphics that he probably couldn't even imagine happening when he started doing it. So crazy. And we saw this one guy like live almost 100 years of seeing the evolution of these ideas like grow. Like
I can't honestly, I was like trying to rack my brain, like who else has made this type of a thing that is just so mainstream. I mean, it's George only Disney.
Lucas, probably.
Well, I was just thinking of like Disney Mickey, too. Like Mickey and Minnie. You know, like those are staples. Like people know them. They're these characters. You know. But yeah, George Lucas.
It started a lot of other like similar franchises. Like I think Lord of the Rings is kind of doing it. Game of Thrones. Yeah. Like
Harry Potter.
Like people are kind of getting smart to that.
As far as like creating worlds.
Yeah, but no matter what, at the end of the day, like Marvel and DC are the OGs. Like,
of course,
they will. Like, you'll never be able to take that from them. Like, of course, they were there way before. They're icons at the end of the day. Like, they're American icons, and they're not even real people.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to like talk about this as one of our subjects, is because like it's like part of our life. It's almost like sometimes I feel like people will talk about it like it's like a government official or something, you know. When Black Panther came out, everyone I talked to, we talked about Black Panther. Like, it was such a big subject matter. And if you didn't see Black Panther, it was like, what's you wrong felt with you? Left out.
Like hand over your passport.
Like, real
You're no longer American.
It was like, everybody, you needed to see Black Panther. Going out with your friends, like, on a Friday night, if you met up with them at a bar or a restaurant, like, hey, what's up? So you saw Black Panther though? Like, do you want to talk? Like, you want to talk about it? So like, what about that one? You want to see it again? You trying to see it right now? Like the bar, let's go.
I saw that movie 3 times.
Yeah, same. Same.
Like when I was a kid, I used to draw a lot, and like my favorite thing to do was draw superheroes. And Halloween, I used to dress up only. I was never like scary stuff for bad guys. I was always superheroes. The concept of just like having powers was so dope to me, and like thinking of things that could be powers. When I was a kid, I didn't even know who Stan Lee was, but I was still influenced by him in the sense of looking at different superheroes and knowing that they couldn't do everything. Like I was never that into Superman because I felt like Superman could do everything, and I was like, it wasn't that cool to me because I was like, he can do everything, like whatever. But I thought Batman was cool. I was super into Batman because again, he was a person and he couldn't do everything, but he would figure out how to use what he had to be just as badass as a Superman. The X-Men was so cool to me because it was like this huge conglomerate and they all could do different things and then they worked together to make stuff happen with these different abilities.
Yes. So for me, like X-Men is like what resonated with me the most. Growing up, like I have a small comic book collection at my house and it's like just full of all X-Men stuff. But for the same reason, like I love just like a group of people and we're just about to kill it. Like I love that. Like I love the whole community aspect of that.
I think the other thing that's dope about comics is the layers to it because it's still storytelling at the end of the day and there's still like messaging in it. And so when you're a kid, you can look at the X-Men, for example, and just think, man, it's so cool that they have all these different powers, or man, they look cool. As you get older, I remember being in college and kind of coming to this revelation of like, wow, the X-Men are like minorities. They're being persecuted all the time and they have to like hide who they are and hide these things that make them special and extraordinary because otherwise they're going to get killed or put in prison.
That's funny because I thought it was like a gay thing. I thought the same thing, like because they're like mutants and they have to go to
and they're calling them mutants. You know what I'm saying? And it's like they're looked at as this other, but the things that make them the other are the things that make them be able to save the world. It kind of like gets deeper the older you get and start looking at this stuff. A friend of mine was asking me and my other friend, who's a bigger comic nerd than I am. He was like, all right, I've never seen any of these Marvel movies. Like, why should I watch them, kind of? And so he kind of like unleashed Pandora's box when he asked that question. But I was telling him, I was like, you know, it's really easy to dismiss them if you've never seen any of them because you might think they're like childish or something or like watching cartoons or something. And a lot of people who don't watch them are kind of like, yeah, I'm not really into that. But it's like, you don't even really know because you're not looking at how deep these stories go. And as a grown adult, I'm not looking at it so much to just be like, Spider-Man swinging from a building, that's so cool. Like, it's not about that. And I just watched Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire one, the other day for the first time because I never watched it. And I never watched it because everybody told me it was terrible. And it was super, super garbage. And it was super garbage.
I didn't see it. Why is it garbage?
It was just hokey. It was so hokey. It was very like just beating you over the head, obvious. They had just like painfully awkward scenes in it where he's just like walking down the street dancing after he got the Venom suit. The Venom suit was lame. The guy that played Eddie Brock was lame. He was great in that 70s show, but he was lame as Eddie Brock. They executed it just with no like care. It just seemed like they didn't really care. These people writing these movies do have to seriously sit down and like write something that can appeal across the board. Like Disney movies have been applying to everybody for years. Yeah. So I think them being in partnership with Marvel is why the Marvel movies are so much better than the DC movies, let's be honest.
That's not even debatable. It's not even up for debate.
But that's why, because Disney knows how to tell like stories that are just good stories for life. And they're taking these characters and just applying that same formula. And it's working phenomenally. So that's what it's about. It's not really about I'm a grown man that's into like cartoons.
That whole culture is changing too. It's like now this is like, it's like cool. Before people used to be like, you're a nerd.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. Like at all.
Because it's been made palatable because they put it in these movies. And so now the culture...
To digest it.
Yeah. And even me, like, I'm not going to act like front. Like, there's a lot of characters that I learned about because they put them in movies. And then I went and read more about them, what their backstories were, if they were just lesser known people. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, nobody knew who they were until they made that movie.
No,
like, that was such a random choice. And it was, like, the best movie ever.
Yes. Like, to me, like, I remember they showed the Guardians of the Galaxy preview. Like, yeah, no one knew. Everyone's, like, looking at it and they're like, who is these people? And then everybody that saw it was like, yo, they're amazing. Yeah. And like, yeah, you're right. Like it's putting it into a way where the audience can digest it.
And like fall in love with these characters.
Like Groot doesn't even talk.
Exactly.
Like he doesn't even.
And he's like a crowd favorite. He says 3 words.
Oh my god! Like that to me is skill. You made us love Groot.
And in the comics, he's actually like really like kind of up. Like he's
really?
Yeah, he's like real scary in the comics. So they
Really?
kind of like watered him down for the movies.
Like why is he scary? Like what do they do?
Because the Guardians are like bad guys.
They
like,
are?
Because remember they got them all out of that prison, and then they told them like you can either like do these missions or you can stay in this space prison that they were in. It was kind of the same thing that Suicide Squad tried to do. Like the same exact thing.
Oh, I get it.
So the Guardians are basically like Marvel's Suicide Squad, but like in the comics they were like kind of worse people, but they kind of made them more like friendlier for the movie. But it worked, like, and it was good that they did it that way, and they could do it with those characters because they were so like obscure. My favorite is Iron Man, and
that's my next question.
I love Iron Man based on Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man because he had to evolve as a person. The first movie, he's just kind of this like pompous, rich, like douche that sells military weapons that destroy stuff. Like, and he makes infinity money off of like destruction. And he gets like blown up, and in the process, like taken captive, and then has to get himself out of a cave and like builds this Iron Man suit in a cave and like takes out these terrorists and stuff and escapes. And has this change of heart, and then takes this genius that he has and this thing that he invented to escape and uses it to create like an infinity renewable energy and like solving all these like world problems. It's just like, man, what if there was a guy like that, you know? And then not only does he change, but he brings all these other people together with these abilities to work together to like do good. And he tells everybody he's Iron Man. So it's not even like all these other superheroes that kind of like hide in these disguises. He straight up goes on TV and is like, yeah, that's me. He still has his character of being like the pompous douchebag, but he's like a good douchebag and you love him for it. And I love that, man.
Iron Man's biggest fan here.
Who's your favorite?
Woo. Well, I mean, for the sake of Marvel, probably like Storm.
It's a solid choice.
Yeah. I love Storm. Halle Berry Storm, so love her. I feel like recently, like, I love Deadpool. I love him because he's so messed up. like his humor and like just how he moves through life and stuff. Not like your typical superhero.
I think I liked Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad for kind of the same reason. Because she was like, she didn't have a superpower, but like she wasn't afraid of anything. And that was kind of her power, was like just the fact that she was so crazy that she would just walk into stuff like completely fearless. And I thought that was dope.
I agree with that.
As like a concept. It was
Why didn't I even say Harley Quinn? I have like 2 Harley Quinn shirts.
Suicide Squad was a terrible movie.
I know, but I mean, as a character, she's
like, she was the only one that I liked watching.
Yeah.
For that reason, like she just wasn't afraid of anything.
But see, that was the same. Like Deadpool was just like so like he wasn't your typical, you know. To me, at least, I can't name another superhero that was like him. Because
Deadpool's like its own kind of lane. But I think what's dope about Deadpool is he kind of mocks the whole concept of a lot of things, but in a way where he kind of still respects it at the same time.
Oh my god! And I loved Ant-Man.
Ant-Man was dope.
Like Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, like I loved. Like I thought it was so great.
That was another one that kind of came out of left field that you're like, what?
Yeah.
But it turned out being really dope.
And then, I mean, obviously, like, another X-Men would definitely be Wolverine. A lot of the comic books that I bought were all, like, Wolverine. But as far as, like, characters, I was definitely more obsessed with the Power Rangers.
The best part about the Power Rangers to me was that they were all different and that they came together to kind of, like, form this collective. Literally became, like, one. I mean, they were, like, the Megazord. And I just liked that they were all from like different worlds, and outside of like school or whatever, like they could work together to save the world from like galactic aliens and stuff. Because a lot of people think, these things are nerdy or whatever, and they think that people are just watching it because it's like cool powers and stuff like that. But if you look at any sci-fi thing or any like comic book thing, be it Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, whatever,
Harry Potter.
Yeah, all that stuff is about people who are unique and people who are different coming together for a common good goal for like the better good of everybody. I think right now, especially if you haven't seen any of this stuff or if you're not into it, like you should check it out because that's what it really is about. And we need something that shows us the benefit of coming together and focusing on what we can do together rather than like our differences. We're all on this planet together, like, and we can't really count on a Superman to crash here and save us. It's not gonna happen. Like, we're on our own and we need each other. So that's it.
I mean,
that's superheroes for you.
Just dropped it for you.
Like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook.
Subscribe.
And YouTube.
This is another subject that we hit. We're super random with our channel because what we're doing is literally just bringing you into our conversations.
And tell us who your favorite superhero is and why.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Night night.
Bye.
You can get back to watching this fucking Kardashians marathon.